back, everyone, to another episode of Let's Talk Housing. If you haven't tuned in before, my name is Brennan Thomas, and I am the co-host here alongside Mr. Stephen Thomas, the chief economist and founder of Reports on Housing. Today, we will discuss the most recent news and statistics, the supply chain issues, if it's still a good time to buy, national home sales falling below 4 million, and first-time homebuyers. So we are recording this on October 27th. But if by the time this is out, it'll already be past Halloween. So happy Halloween, everyone. Steven, what are your plans with the enlarged Brady Bunch and what are you wearing?
We'll start with what I'm wearing. Right now, if I was to describe myself, I am a Viking, a really true gifted Viking with my incredible plastic sword and an awesome long cape, fur on the top, and a beautiful long haired blonde wig. Because if you know Vikings, the longer your hair, you know what? It means that you're noble. I'm pretty noble right now. I got nice long hair. And so that's the outfit. And for the Thomas family, actually, tonight we're going to a block party where everyone dresses up and lots of fun games and stuff like that, and the whole entire family. And then on Halloween, of course, it seems that most of the kids are all, even the olders, are coming to go trick or treating or hand out candy. Our 27-year-old daughter is expecting a baby within weeks and doesn't feel like she can get any bigger yet. Every single week, of course, gets a little bit bigger because that's how it works when you're not almost 9 months pregnant. She will be handing out the candy. And my wife's really, really good friend, all the way from Greece, is going to go trick or treating for us. Her kids are part of an English immersion program in Greece, and they know all about Halloween, but they've never been. So they're going with us door to door as well. We already got them costumes. That should be a lot of fun. Everybody will be coming to the Thomas household, and we will be doing lots of trick or treating in the beautiful city and community of Ladera Ranch, where it looks like a Halloween movie where we live. Tons and tons of kids going door to door. So that's what's going on in my neck of the woods. How about you, young man? What's going on with your Halloween festivities, and what are you wearing for those people that are not on YouTube and can't see you?
Well, right now I am wearing a super cool looking SWAT, I guess, shirt. So I'm full uniform right now. Totally geared out. I have a SWAT hat, and it's pretty much a SWAT has like a badge on the arm, but I think it looks cool, and I love the costume that I bought yesterday. But as far as what I'm doing for Halloween, I am also planning on coming over to our house because I have not been able to go trick-or-treating with Ezekiel for the past 4 years because I've been at college. So this is my chance to, I guess, really experience that with him. Because the last time I was able to, I was in high school, and he was like 1 year old, I think. So I'm super excited. But Stephen, what is happening in today's market? And then would you be able to describe what's going on with supply, demand, and expected market time?
Yeah. So within the last week, across all markets, we're seeing the inventory continue to rise. Now, remember, inventory was supposed to peak all the way back in the summer across the United States. It was supposed to peak right around the very, very first week of September, and in Southern California, it varies all the way from July to August. I think there's a market that typically peaks in September. And same thing with the Bay Area, Phoenix, Vegas, everywhere that we're tracking. However, instead, we're seeing the inventory continue to ratchet up higher and higher. And that is exactly what it's doing. Inventory has not found its peak yet. It most likely is going to peak within the next couple of weeks. Why do I say that with such confidence? Because December is home to the fewest number of homes that come on the market. It's the holiday market begins the second week in November. It's a week prior to Thanksgiving. People are start preparing. People are not doing as much. There aren't as many homes coming on the market right before Thanksgiving. So you see the inventory really start to drift. It's home to the 11th. It's the 11th fewest number of homes coming on the market behind December. It's the fewest are on in December, and then November is home to the next fewest. And so we're not going to see as many homes come on the market. And then you have the holidays where a lot of people that were a little bit too overzealous will pull their homes off the market. So you'll get a ride down in inventory. But right now we're watching inventory continue to rise. As with near 8% interest rates, what we've seen is demand's come down a little bit. Just that little bit has allowed that inventory to continue to grow. And it's just because we've been above 7% since July, but it hasn't stayed at 7%. Since July, it's actually crept up higher and higher and higher, where it's been playing right around 8%. And that's just too high, because going from 7 to 8% has actually erased 5 million potential buyers in the marketplace. They can no longer afford to purchase a home. So every 1% that it goes up, you're erasing that. And you can imagine how big of a gap it is since going from 3.25% interest rate at the beginning of last year to where we are today at near 8%. It's just a ton of Americans across the United States that can no longer purchase a home. So, as a result of supply going up, demand slightly going down and continue going down, the market time continues to grow. And I'm not talking the days on market for everybody that went into escrow and the number of closed sales. I'm talking about the speed, velocity of the market based upon where supply is growing to and where demand is at right now today. It's kind of like a speedometer, and I see it in all markets growing. It's going up. And usually at this time of the year, it's flat. It's flat during the fall, where you have supply coming down and demand coming down at near the same pace. So the market time tends to be flat. That's not happening this time around because we've had inventory going up and demand going down. So you have market times continuing to rise. That's what's kind of going on. It will stop in a couple of weeks, but if you're new to the market and you're just coming in right now as a buyer, you're going to see that, yeah, you know what? You have a little bit more time to operate, unless you're in the hottest price ranges and you know that price range for your marketplace, and but know that you have a little extra time. But if you're a seller coming on the market, you have to be really, really careful, because this is not spring. This is everything slowing down a little bit more.
Looking at the far future for the housing market, is there anything concerning for you?
In looking at the future, yeah. So this market was unhealthy in 2020 and 2021 and in 2022, and it all has to do with the imbalance. The imbalance of not enough homeowners placing their homes on the market. Actually, there were, but there was way too much demand because interest rates were kept too low for too long, and it ate into any potential buildup in inventory. Matter of fact, it went the wrong direction. So we had this issue of not enough supply and demand. Now, we're still there. I don't see any fix to the supply unless maybe we went to like 10% interest rates, which some people are, for some whack-a-mole reason, are actually rooting for that kind of a demise. However, what happens with interest rates going down is it's not something that I'm rooting for, but I see mass appreciation again, because we'll have an increase in demand. When you have that increase in demand because rates are coming down, it's going eventually it'll get to a level where more homeowners will place their homes on the market, because it's bridging the gap from their fixed rate mortgage to where it is to where prevailing interest rates will be. But the problem is that means the interest rates have to come down enough that there will be a lot more demand, and it will outpace any entrances of inventory. So we're going to be dealing with this blasted inventory issue for I just do not see a way out of it anytime soon. I'm quite concerned going forward.
So I was looking at an article from Financial Times, and it's one of my favorite quotes right now, and it says that housing is, in many ways, America's last remaining supply chain problem. Do you agree with that statement?
Yeah, I just described kind of what that is. It is a supply chain issue of it's twofold. We have not been building enough homes for a very, very long time. People have heard that. They've said, yeah, they're over reporting that, but you can really feel it in markets like this where there's very few available. And now we're seeing close to it's making its way towards 1 million. It's not quite there yet, but 1 million new home sales. And if you have 4 million resales and 1 million closed sales, that's a big chunk of the market is new. And that's because we're doing such a few numbers of closed sales, and as a result, we just don't have enough that we're building And there are some areas where it's more acute. They're underbuilding probably the most in certain areas of the country. The West Coast being one of those. California is has been underbuilding. Probably I believe it's one of the worst markets in all of the United States. And you could actually and then so there's not a lot of building going on. And then we have the problem of with these low rates, you have not enough homes coming on the market, and we've shown it in all different markets. It's like it's about 25% for fewer homeowners in the Bay Area. In like Southern California, for example, it's a lot higher. It's like 42% off of what we normally were placing on the market prior to COVID, and a lot of that just has to do with people are kicking back in their homes, enjoying their rates, and they don't want to rock the boat. They like where their monthly payment is, and why rock the boat for their family? They're going to wait for rates to come down before they make any kind of a move. So, not enough supply and a supply chain issue, and I do not see a fix to this. I see more homes coming available, but as far as coming on the market, but they'll go right into escrow. So I see us changing more hands of buyers and sellers down the road, but we will still have a limited inventory of homes available. Even down the road, when interest rates come down, there will be more units that are done. That will help in the supply of things, so there will be more transactions that take place. But as far as if you're walking into it as a buyer, you're still going to say, man, this is like COVID car lots. I don't know if you remember driving by a car lot, but there's nothing on the car lot. They would have to every 3 spaces they'd park a car to make it look like they even had any inventory. It's kind of like how the housing inventory has felt for a super long time.
Now, Realtor.com made a survey with 700 respondents. 29% of people moved in with their parents to save money, and another 22% are considering doing the same in order to purchase a home in the next year. Does this tell the tale of current times for first-time homebuyers, or for those who don't, for those who just want to save a little bit extra cash?
You have to do something to pivot to these higher rates in order to even get into a home. You have to have that larger down payment because that's where values are at. A, B, you might want to be doing something like paying discount points. And discount points are if you pay 1% discount point, that's 1% of the loan value, your interest rate comes down considerably more than it normally does. And the reason for that is because of they're so worried that as soon as the economy slows, that interest rates are going to take a dive, that everybody will refinance. So what they've done is they've built in a higher interest rate. Well, if you're going to give the bank money up front, it allows that interest rate to come down a lot because you're already giving them profit immediately up front. And that's that way they're not as worried about you refinancing because interest rates really have to come down a lot more if they're going to already give you a good interest rate. So, yeah, that I think that pretty much answers the bell there.
And then Fannie Mae CEO said it's a tale of two housing markets with buyers and sellers just on complete opposite ends. Is this true? And if so, can you elaborate on that idea?
Yeah, there are at opposite ends buyers and sellers. Sellers are sitting back in there, and most of them don't have to really make a move. But they're locked in also. A lot of them feel like I can't really make a move because of where rates are at, and some of them can't even qualify for a mortgage if they were to go out and get something like for like. So a lot that just limits the number of sellers. That's where they're close, but buyers have the real issue of not enough. There's not enough homes available, so it makes it so that it doesn't feel like a buyer's market at all out there. And B, interest rates are so cost prohibitive that a lot of people don't even qualify. So that's the tale of two markets. I think that's what they're trying to talk about is that the sellers are sitting in a really good spot versus buyers that are sitting in not as good of a spot, and that's kind of as a seller, I mean, what's the worst thing that's happening to a seller? Well, they have to go out and they have to get something else. So who's making these moves? It's a lot of people that have a lot of equity in their homes. It's like baby boomers that are downsizing, and then the millennial comes in, and the baby boomer goes and buys their house all cash someplace else in a smaller property, and then you have the millennial that comes in that has to get this really high interest rate. So talk about the tale of two different markets. That's really what that kind of encapsulates really the two polar ends of the marketplace.
Now, through thick and thin, I usually like to say that there are always positives to life. In this difficult market, why would it be considered a good time to purchase for prospective buyers or those who are waiting on the sidelines for something to change?
Well, I've kind of described it before. It's like people think I said it. They think I've got my pom poms out for the real estate industry, but it's not really what I'm rooting for. I said it's unhealthy that we have very few homes available and we'll have just a boatload of buyers. That's exactly where we are going once interest rates come down. I've heard the argument from some people that said, "Well, once interest rates come down, it's probably because we're in a recession. There will be a lot of people that have to sell their homes." We're at about 1 million homes on the market versus 4 million during the Great Recession. That's where there was a glut of homes available versus very few homes available right now. So I just don't see this buildup in inventory. Instead, what we see is quite the opposite. Once interest rates come down, these millennials that have been sitting on the sidelines, some of them have been priced out because of interest rates. Interest rates come down enough where they can enter the market now and purchase. They're going to be competing against each other. And the millennials just have been getting the shaft all along for years and years and years. There's a lot of them that are renting and that want to purchase and can't and are sitting on the sidelines. So they'll just be competing against each other. And this is why getting in now is a good time, because you can refinance down the road. When is that going to happen? I could hardly tell you. I have an idea. We have our forecast already in there for 2024, but it involves, okay, when is when is the economy going to slow enough to bring rates down? And there's three different scenarios for that. It's during the spring, during the summer, or during the fall. If it's during the fall, man, it's a long wait, I'm telling you. And most likely scenario, probably summer. By summer, we should get kind of a downshift where we see these interest rates really start to come down a bit. But by then, you're going to be dealing with a lot of people that you're competing against. So as a buyer, get in now, really like that interest rate and fall in love with it. I mean, you have to and fall in love with the payment and know that this I might be holding for longer than 6 months, longer than a year. Who knows how long you're going to hold it? So whatever it is, be able to budget for what that payment is right now and know that down the road, there is a high probability that rates will come down enough where you'll be able to refinance and get a much better payment down the road.
Now, on the tune of low inventory, recently, I mean, as far as recent times go, we've seen historically low inventory level of homes for sale continue to push prices up, and rates that crossed over 8% recently have pulled sales down to the lowest level in 13 years, according to a monthly report from the National Association of Realtors. Is this a cause for concern?
We're dealing with these the low sales volume. The low sales volume crept in at the end of 2022, and then we've just kind of been there for all of 2023. The numbers are actually driving closer and closer together as this year trails on. Why? Because year over year, it was already this week 1 year ago. I think we were at 7.37% tops for interest rates for 2022. So you can imagine that if that's where rates were at then, that year over year, you really can't see it. But now that we've had an entire year of low demand matched up against very few homeowners coming on the market, meaning that it's going to even drive sales down even lower, not only because of high rates, but because there's fewer homes available, you're going to get the readings to be the lowest level in 13 years type of thing. And in some areas, it's even lower than that. I told you in Southern California, 42% fewer. Well, you're going to have a lot fewer sales if you have fewer of a commodity here. There's just not as many sales. So Yeah, it doesn't surprise me. It's not necessarily because of 8% interest rates. 8% just made it a little bit worse. A little bit. It's not like giant taking the dial and really turning it down. We already did that at the end, the very fourth quarter of 2022, and we've just continued that into 2023.
Now, home deal cancellations are at the highest rate in a year as high mortgage rates give buyers cold feet. Deal cancellations notched 16.6% in September, according to Redfin. Is this a trend we could see follow into the end of the year and maybe into 2024 if rates stay this ridiculously high?
Yeah, you won't get the big cancellation. The big cancellations come from people that are putting together transactions and go into their pending status. They meet with their lender and then they realize that interest rates have gone up 0.5% in the last week. That was the absorption of interest rates moving from the low to right around mid seven all the way up towards 8%. When you take that kind of a bump, people then look at their payment and it is a drastic change, especially in high cost areas. The change is even bigger. So yeah, it was ratcheted up higher, but it'll come back down because now we're actually seeing interest rates that went up to 8%, but then they've come down a little bit. So now we've kind of hit that new range, and like I said before, most likely we'll see interest rates that come down a little bit more down the road. It's when you get these wild swings up that you'll see the cancellations. And we've done it before. Last year we did it and we had a big giant change. And also in the fall of 2022 when we went from 5% interest rates at this in summer in August, all the way up to 7.37% interest rates in October. Such a big, gigantic change that cancellation rate was extremely high. It was actually higher last year than it is right now currently. So it's not a trend that I think will continue.
Now, as somebody who loves hearing and reading about the economy, I read many articles like yourself and watch many videos. More than ever, that I personally have seen is the fact that so many people are quite literally rooting, and I quote, for the demise of the housing industry. Is this a large reason all the negativity about housing crashes and Airbnb busts and shadow inventories? Is that why this is circulating so much right now?
Yeah, I've already said that millennials have had the short end of the stick to begin with. They really are unhappy. And they're not used to reading all these economic things or going on to CNBC or knowing exactly what's going on. Most homeowners aren't, but at least they're a little bit more familiar with it the older you get. But as you're just coming fresh out of college and then you're just getting married and now you're looking at becoming a homeowner, now you're following different statistics that you've never followed before. You're not used to taking a look at anything like that. So you need to turn to places where you can get real good statistics. The problem with today is things have evolved and changed. And now you have all of you don't know where to turn to. Do you turn to newspapers? Well, people don't even get newspapers anymore. So what are they turning to? The internet. What are they turning to? TikTok or Instagram or YouTube. YouTube, you could search away on housing crash and you'll find people that sound like they exactly know what they want to do. The problem is, check out their credentials. I, I don't know a single one of those housing bears that runs one of those channels that is actually an economist, that actually knows how to look at data. They are just what we refer to as permabears. Take a look at their track record. Have they been able to forecast things properly in the past? Are they right on? Are they talking about, is it all doom? Is it just a doom loop over and over and over again? Because that's what sells. The click sell. Because I said millennials have had the short end of the stick, and their short end of the stick is, you know what? We've had values that have continued to go up. We've had inventories that have continued to go down. We've had interest rates that have gone from record low levels where everybody can refinance, but millennials are just getting out of college or just starting a family or that type of stuff, looking to turn to housing, not able to get something, and now are dealing with interest rates that are skyrocketing. So now they couldn't cash in at 3% or less than 3% or 3.25% or 3.5% or even 4.5% for that matter. They're staring down the pipe of an 8% interest rate with very limited inventory and values that have gone up this year. So it's been hard to be a millennial. So you start to turn to, this just doesn't seem right. We've gone through this before. It was the Great Recession. I remember that as a kid. And then they look backwards and say, that has to happen again. It happened before. The problem is it's not going to happen again. It's not going to happen soon. You have to understand we had the Great Depression, and then much later we had the Great Recession. It took a lot longer to, excuse me while I get a hair out of my mouth with this wig that I have. But yeah, it doesn't happen that often. Just because we're going to go into a recession does not mean it's going to be the Great Recession or the Great Depression. But there are people that subscribe to it's going to be the mother of all recessions. Everything's going to crash. The everything crash is what people call it. The housing crash. The problem is you need inventory for housing to crash. Where are we going to get inventory if everybody's sitting there with fixed rate mortgages that are really awesome? I don't know where you're going to get that. I mean, you'd have to have a ton of people lose their job. And this is not going to be a job loss recession coming up because we have a problem with not enough workers looking for a job right now. So we have unemployment that is in the threes, and it's the lowest level. It's gone up a little bit this year, but it's still lowest level in decades. So that's still an issue. We're not getting anywhere close to where you need to be in order for there to be some sort of a beginning of a doom loop. And you'll see it. The problem is I can see it a lot sooner before even the Fed sees it or anything else in housing. And I just don't see it. I saw it in the fall of 2005. When did the Great Recession, when was it called? In 2008. As a matter of fact, the Fed thought we were going to have a positive year in 2008 as far as GDP. Yet it went down over 3% for 2008, the beginning of the Great Recession. But you could see it really early. By the time it got to 2008, housing was already on the skids, and you could see foreclosures and short sales just absolutely, it's this wave tsunami that was already being created. We're nowhere close to that because first you have to have a lot of inventory, then you have to see the delinquency rate go up. National delinquency rates at decades lows. So I don't know where we're getting this doom loop, but when you're looking for something, you want to look for something that you can subscribe to that matches what you need. And what you need right now is to get into a house, and you want values to come down and you want interest rates to come down. And the only way for that to happen is for everything to be calamitous and for it to crash. And that's what people unfortunately are rooting for. That's what gets all the clicks on the internet. I mean, I could do doom loop and I can make thousands of dollars a week doing YouTube article after YouTube video. And the problem with that is, I could not put my head on the pillow. I do not want to make a dime that way. Instead, I want to properly let everybody know exactly what's happening statistical wise and data wise so everybody can make some really intelligent decisions. And you know what? At the end of the day, they can make those intelligent decisions, or they can go ahead and listen to somebody else that is telling them the same thing over and over again. It's narratives that don't make sense. And I can go one-on-one with anybody on the internet. I can name a couple, but I don't want to give them any credence, so people will go click on their website one more time so they get paid one more dollar. Because at the end of the day, they're doing a disservice to Americans across all over the place. And anybody that looks at it from around the world, because they sound like they know what they're talking about, but I could easily debate them and show them line by line where their thinking is misguided. Why? Because I have an economic background and I know how to read the data. And do we know exactly where we're going to go in the future? We've already established that that's not correct. But what their thinking is, and looking at the past data, it's not pointing to anything that they're talking about. So you need to be careful who you listen to and where you go for your information.
Now, I know you said that it's easy for people of younger generations to sort of fall into that trap with TikTok and YouTube and just, I guess, the internet in general. But for people of those generations that are graduating college who are just looking to purchase a home right now, what would you recommend looking forward towards the future if they want to eventually own a home, especially during these scary times?
Yeah, it's like what I said. You got to get in when you can get in and know that long term it makes sense. And you're saying some people say I'm priced out of a property completely. Well, then you got to look at different ways of doing that. You might need to buy a tiny little condo. There are some people that buy condos and rent them out and then go rent something else themselves. That at least you're getting your foot into the door of real estate as values continue to ratchet up. That's one of the ways of doing it. Another way of doing it is buy a duplex where you live in one and somebody lives in the other. That's not double. That's not two double what it is. Renting out a room. That's something you can definitely do with family. We have a lot of kids in our family. You're one of 9. So at the end of the day, you know what? You can have a kid or two move in with you and offset your mortgage. I actually did that for my brother. When I got out of college, I moved in with him and paid him rent, which helped him pay for his mortgage. So that was how he was able to get into a house back then. There's just different ways that you got to take a look at doing things, and it's not you're staring down the barrel of something that doesn't look that pretty, but you have to figure out a way to get in, and the sooner you get in, the better, because long term, I can show you historically what's the direction of housing. It's always long term up, kind of like stock market, long term up. It'll always go up. Will there be times where it goes down? Sure. But overall, it will, if you look out 10 years out, it's always higher than where it was 10 years ago. That's almost always a given. You can take a look at it over time, and that's exactly what it ends up doing.
So Yahoo Finance wrote an article questioning if the pressure is about to shift to sellers. Who do you feel has more pressure in this market, and what sort of market are we in? Are we in a buyer's market or are we in a seller's market, or in between?
Depends upon the market. All markets are different. Like Boise, Idaho, and Austin, Texas get the most. They get the most fanfare because their markets are already their inventories are one of the exceptions across the country, higher than 2019 levels. Everywhere else is way below 2019 levels. So you have to look at inventories first of all to know what the market's like. As far as the rest of the country is concerned, other than Boise and Austin, maybe a couple others, you have when in looking at that, we still have inventory that's far less than 2019. However, even though you have that low inventory, with interest rates pushing their way up towards 8%, and the inventory did not peak over the summer, continues to go down. As a result, what's going to happen is we're going to see that values, there's too much pressure on values, that values are going to slightly go down right now. And that's kind of what we're going to see for the rest of the year until we get to about January, because at the end of the year, from the holidays really begin, like I said, second week of November, we'll see inventory come down. And by the time we get to January 1st, that's where inventory hits a low, but it will be so low that it'll kind of start the 2024 market with not enough homes on the market. And then we will stop the bleeding as far as if values come down. Last year, values came down like crazy for the last 6 months of the year, bottomed in December. Some markets, January. But this year, it'll come down not at the same clip, just a little bit through the end of the year. There's not that much left. And then come January, they should have hit a bottom either in December, where they come down, or January, and then they'll start to go up because we're just going to have a problem of not enough homes on the market. But we'll have to see exactly how that plays out. We'll be watching inventories, of course, very, very closely going forward.
Well, thank you everyone again for tuning into another episode of Let's Talk Housing. Now, if you want to learn more about what's going on in today's market, because it's just a bunch of craziness right now across Southern California or the Bay Area, please feel free to check out our YouTube, or you can subscribe today at reportsonhousing.com. And please leave us a fantastic review. We'd greatly appreciate it. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to post it into our social media in the comments, or you can even email me at info@reportsonhousing.com. We will see you soon and have a fantastic rest of your day. Thank you.